I wish I had learned this truth many years ago. Be thankful for the days, good and bad.
All right, welcome to episode 15 of Warrior vs. Zombie. And as always, today I'm here with an amazing warrior, Lon Ricker, and I'll introduce you to him a little bit, but I want to make sure those of you who have joined us for the first time or maybe forgotten what Warrior vs. Zombie is all about. First of all, as warriors, we know that success is a journey, not a destination. We all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are really all part of making us who we are up to this point, but they also provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world, and in each episode I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life, entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, really anybody, any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors, you'll find, have a cause, they have unique value, and a vision that goes generations into the future. So today I want to talk to you about Lon Ricker. Lon is a warrior on any and many levels. He's a CVO, or like he says, Chief Dream Builder of Ricker Dynamics. He's been a driving force behind the growth of numerous nonprofit and for-profit organizations throughout his 34-year career. After graduating college with a degree in electronic engineering and technology in Michigan, he worked for 5 different telecom companies in various leadership and consulting roles, which led him ultimately to Texas, where he discovered his true passion to serve and really empower companies and organizations seeking to make a difference in their community and the world, while volunteering at the Soupmobile in Dallas. He quickly became immersed in the growth and development areas of nonprofits, becoming a director of development for over 5 years. He then became development director at Frisco Family Services, chief development officer at American Fallen Soldiers Project, and finally, as CVO of Ricker Dynamics, he's been the chief dream builder of Team Up to Fight Hunger. Lon has been passionate at networking and one of the most generous and amazing servant leaders I know. So I can't say a lot more. I could tell you a lot more about this guy, but I'm going to let you talk to Lon right now. And so, Lon, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I'm having fun. This is good. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and learn from you. It's always a learning experience when I get to visit.
So what is great about your world today? I hear a lot of people talking about lockdowns, shutdowns, COVID-19, a lot of different things. And in the area that you're working in, and we'll talk more about that, obviously, in the third segment when we get to talk about where you're at and where you're going. But how is it impacting your world? How's the things that are going around right now? What are your thoughts? What are you encountering as you run around and connect with people and so on?
I like to be creative. I like to do things that are different. And right now, I'm finding that a lot of people are open to new ideas. And so I'm learning. I feel energized with a lot of the things that are going on right now. And I'm realizing that it's because, I don't like that. Well, we're doing it this way because this is the way we've always done it. And frankly, until, 6 months ago, I would hear that a lot with clients. They'd be like, well, we do this and this is the way we've done it and it's what we're comfortable with. And so the first thing I'd have to do with clients or people I'm trying to help is explain that it's okay to try something new. And a lot of times, try to build that credibility that maybe because they've been doing it that way for a long time is actually a detriment to their growth. I'm finding now people are just kind of going, what should we do? Because they realize they can't be doing what they used to do. So it's been fun. People, some of my ideas are pretty crazy. And lately they're kind of going, yeah, okay, well, we've never tried that before, but what we were doing doesn't work. So let's go for it. I'm really realizing that as we talk about it, people are a little more open to to new. So that's fun.
Well, actually, that's a really, really cool thing to talk about because, frankly, we do fall into, as I say, get trapped in our license to operate. We get trapped in the day-to-day. Our calendar gets full, same old, same old. Zombie brain takes over. We do everything out of just, as you say, as we've always done it. One of the things I teach, right, is that, if you don't engage your creative mind, your analytical mind, your frontal lobe, then what happens is basically the rest of your brain, 95% of your thoughts, which are 60 to 70,000 a day, are the same thoughts, same actions, same things you did yesterday, right? So something like COVID-19 comes along and it rocks our world, and all of a sudden the things that we were doing on autopilot or our zombie was keeping us motivated, all of a sudden we're going, those don't work anymore, or I don't see how I can even do those things. So yeah, let's open up to something else. So I truly get that. I'm seeing the same thing in my world as well, and that's a beautiful thing. And frankly, the people that respond, what I know from my own history, and I've talked about this, you and I have talked about this before, but it's the people when something major like, COVID-19, a financial crash, outsource your company, merger and acquisition, any of those kinds of things that I've been involved with in my history, what I found is the people that come out of those things better than they were when they went in are the ones focused on the doors that are opening and the different things to do rather than trying to figure out how to recover and keep doing what they were doing before the change occurred. So that is actually a very healthy thing, and I can see if that's what you're experiencing, why you're having fun, because I know you.
Well, it's frustrating because I hear a lot of people that, we got to stay home and and it's kind of like they're waiting for something to happen. And they're the ones that seem to be negative and scared and dissatisfied. And frankly, I think that, they're the ones that are going to get sick. And, your mind controls a lot of that. So I'm trying to run around with people that are excited about opportunities. Yep, places are closed. What can we do to help the businesses, or how can we do something different? So I'm having fun. Some are probably avoiding me because I scare them with some ideas, and other ones, are going, hey, how can I be a part of that?
Yeah, that's actually really awesome. I'm really glad to hear that because, frankly, I want you to be successful, and I want the people that come into your path to be the ones that should be in your path, and those that do have an open mind and aren't just trying to hunker down and wait this thing out probably aren't going to fare that well. And especially, as you point out, which is very very important to point out, is if you're in a state of stress or a state of fear, then what that does is your immune system actually shuts down. I mean, that's science. That's not saying, oh, this is something, you can pull all the scientists. They'll tell you, if you're under anybody in the medical profession, anybody that understands how our biology works, is we're not worried about our body isn't worried about fighting off a virus if we think we're running from the bear. Our body is really geared up to shut that down and allocate all the energy to fly, fight, or hide. But it's not allocated to fighting a virus. So you are susceptible. If you're afraid, it had nothing to do with the virus. And it had nothing to do with a lot of things that people will tell you to do to make you feel better. As long as you feel okay when you go out, then you're probably doing as good as you can as far as protecting yourself, but you're a target for the virus if you go out and you're terrified. So that's very, very insightful. Well, we could talk about that for a long time, and I really want to get the audience kind of hearing a little bit about your story, because I know your story. I probably don't know all of your story. I shared some of it at the beginning, but I'm interested in hearing your story from yourself and have you share that with the audience in the next segment. So we're going to take a short break here from Warrior versus Zombie and Lon Ricker, and we'll be back to hear his story after a little short interlude with Ricky Jean Wright, and It's Not the Getting There.
but the miles become the teacher while the student learns real slow, traveling blind most of the time. Wherever you go, it's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not
All right, we're back with the second segment of Warrior versus Zombie with Lon Ricker. And we had an awesome check-in segment, and we're still dealing with this COVID-19 thing. But now we want to talk about, Lon, I know a little bit of your journey. I know it's been somewhat up and down and different, and you've started out, as I said there, as an engineer, and now you're in nonprofits. And I know that there's been things along the way that you've acted upon and so on. So really share your journey with our audience. That's what we're here to hear. So tell me a little bit about that.
All right, Dave. Well, I jokingly tell people I'm a recovering engineer. Out of college, I spent 20 years in the telecom industry in software development and test. And I learned early on I liked working with startup companies because I liked that idea where you had 5-10 people that were all focused on that common goal, and you do whatever it took to get things done. You'd work around the clock, you'd argue and fight and celebrate and everything else. But then I would burn out. And so a number of times I would, when I saw that the company wasn't going to make us all rich and as things were maybe fading, I'd sell everything and go camping. I did that, and I'd say the third time it finally stuck. I sold everything and packed up my motorcycles and my toy hauler and my dog and took off and kind of traveled around the country. But when I was back here in Dallas, I was volunteering at a mobile soup kitchen. And I joked about the fact that I'd go down there every Wednesday and stir spaghetti. And the joke was at least I knew I was getting one good meal a week because I usually get a cup of spaghetti out of helping down there. And God just led me to get more and more involved. I was doing work in the warehouse and building things and helping that way. And then they found out that I think one day I made the mistake of going up in the office and getting a printer working for them. And they realized I could do more than stir spaghetti. And then David, the executive director, asked me to run their Christmas program. They were putting homeless men and women up at the Hyatt Regency for Christmas every year. And I told them I'd do it for 1 year, but I was traveling and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know, I knew I'd have to get a job, but I didn't know what it would be. But right now I was just kind of traveling. And that first year I got to run the Christmas event. And January 2nd, I think it was, I called him back and asked him if I could do it again the next year. And so, as you mentioned, I became their development director. Again, he found out that I knew more than just hammering nails and stirring spaghetti. And we started raising money and growing the mission and went from feeding the homeless to buying homes and as transitional housing, moving people off the street. We started a thrift store and things like that. And I realized, God showed me that my real passion was helping leaders to fulfill their passion. In his case, it was serving the homeless, and I was blessed by that. And so, again, when I quit working in the telecom, I had no clue what I was going to do. I wasn't worried about it. I knew that God would show me if I let him. As David pointed out, I ran from it for a number of years. He kept trying to hire me, and I kept saying no. But finally, I listened to God, and I'm super blessed. It's been 12 or so years now that I've been working with nonprofits, and I've never been this broke, and I've never been this happy.
Wow. So, yeah, nonprofits, as I say, you don't do, as you know, I spent a little bit of time in the church ministry, and everything I do to this day is kind of a ministry of sorts, even this podcast. And I said, you don't do nonprofits for the money. In fact, the people that do nonprofits for the money usually aren't nonprofits you really want to invest in, right? Because the money is going to the people that it isn't a ministry for them. It isn't something that they're doing because of the impact that it's having, but what they can do to pay the bills. And that may work for a bit, but as we talk about your vision. So tell me what, along that pretty interesting journey of being an recovering engineer and then finding your way into the nonprofit arena through hard work and just showing up every day and then taking on more responsibilities as they realized you could handle it and they needed it, and that's not unusual in the nonprofit world either. What zombies or what things have you had to overcome in that process? Obviously, the making a big shift like quit your work and pack everything up and travel has to have some a little bit of pucker factor, as I say, in it. But tell me anything. What would you say?
I've been very blessed. I mean, I've been homeless and living in my truck a number of times, but that's been by choice. But I've learned a lot from it. One of the things in working with the nonprofits, but if I look back at the corporate world, is learning to not lose my own sense of integrity and morals. There are people that you want to help and support so much that sometimes you can get taken in under their own delusions. And so I've had to be careful where I question things and don't just follow. It's interesting because I've thought if I have a book in me, it would be, you don't have to hit rock bottom to succeed, because that seems like everybody has a story of where they were as far low as they could get before they came up. And I don't feel that I've hit rock bottom. I've put myself in situations, but I can't write that book because I don't feel like I've succeeded at anything great either. But I've actually talked to some people about that. It's like, do you really have to fail to become a success? And maybe I just haven't failed yet enough. But, so maybe that's the zombie. Maybe it's that, what you've taught me in the past, that head junk. There's that stuff in my head that maybe I have to overcome that. Or maybe I'm not recognizing the times maybe I'm delusional. I joke about, being on the river of denial. So maybe it's, I don't have a great answer. I can't point at something and go, man, that was a real big zombie, unless it's just where I am now. And maybe I'm letting something cloud me from really being able to be a real success. And that's entirely probable.
Well, interestingly enough, you didn't characterize it as such, but you wrapped it in the wrapping paper or the clothes of a zombie. When you said that, I haven't really hit rock bottom, because that's a matter of perception. And so the warrior in you says, hey, I did it to myself. It's my own choice. Therefore, it's not something that I can say I hit rock bottom. There's a lot of people that their story says similar things to what you experienced about, hey, I was living out of my car. Well, you said I was living out of my car, but it was my own choice. That's actually a good way of dealing with that zombie. It's really waking up from that and realizing that you can come up with more stuff, right? I mean, you can do more things. If you're within your comfort zone, and that's your comfort zone, right, is staying at a level without having much, then that's a zombie in and of itself. Because I know that's, for me, I'll be very candid with you and the audience, is that's still an issue that I work with, is because I decided 15 years ago to retire, and that it was never going to be about money again. That I was doing well from a money standpoint. I was going to spend whatever time God gave me left to make a difference. I didn't even know what that meant. But that took me on a journey that some people would look at and go, "Oh, wow, you lost $3 million. That is a bad deal." Well, a lot of people might say, well, at least I had $3 million to lose. I mean, it's really how you look at it. So, I mean, some people thinking about breaking out of what they're doing to do what you're doing right now, which is really making a difference. is a major zombie you've overcome, even though maybe you don't accept it as such, I guess is the saying. So I think you've had your share, and I think we've all had our share. It's just that, as I said before, as warriors, we don't sit there and on the side of the road very long and cry about whatever it is that we're dealing with at any given point in time, because we're focused forward and keep moving on our journey, right?
When you say on the side of the road, I was sharing with a friend just a little while ago about I actually, in my traveling and everything, it's almost kind of cool when I've broken down on the side of the road, because it's like, okay, let's see how we're going to get out of this, and again, when I hit the road, I usually have a credit card and things like that. I'll have a little bit of savings, but I know I got that. If I really need it, I can get bailed out. But there's been times where, I've been on the side of the road, and it's like, and the feeling when you fix it or overcome it, or I had my truck towed 60 miles in one direction and my fifth wheel towed 20 miles in the other direction when I lost the transmission in the middle of Kentucky someplace. And I was like, cool, I got a motorcycle in the back of the fifth wheel, and I unloaded the bike and spent 3 days tooling around there. So it was like, that was a bummer, but wow, that was really pretty cool. So I cherish those breakdowns, because I know there's going to be, at the very least, the opportunity to overcome that. And it's a good feeling, especially if you can overcome it, on your own with your own means. And you go, yep, I did that, pat yourself on the back and go look for the next breakdown.
Yeah. And that's a great warrior mentality for your story. All right. Well, I think we've kind of gone through the story, at least at this point, because I really want to spend the next segment kind of talking about where you're at with Ricker Dynamics, where you're at with some of your current projects, what you're looking for, what the value you see yourself continuing to provide beyond getting to where you're at, of course. But as you go forward, and then if anything were possible, what do things look like? Is it just stay where I'm at, or I doubt that, knowing you're a warrior, but what is it that you would want to see happen? So with that, we're going to land the plane, as I say, for this segment of Warrior versus Zombie with Lon Ricker, and we'll come back and hear a little bit more of Ricky Jean Wright. And then following that, we're going to hear about Lon and where he's at and where he's going.
It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. Funny how wisdom and youth.
All right, we're back with the third segment of episode 15 of Warrior versus Zombie with Lon Ricker, and we've heard an amazing story. We've heard a nice journey to this point, and we've heard a lot about what he's dealing with and how he's worked through in the immediate time with COVID-19. But Lon, where are you today? What kinds of things? What are you wrestling with today, and where are you going and all that? Can you share that with our audience?
Probably, because I'm still wrestling with how to answer that. So Ricker Dynamics, basically what I do is primarily I work with nonprofits, helping them increase their revenue so they can have a bigger impact on their clients. I tell people that I typically teach nonprofit leaders how to love on their donors the way that they love on their clients. Find that, especially I work with a lot of founders, a lot of people that, they started a nonprofit out of their passion to serve, whether it's animals or people or the environment. And so they know how to do that, and they're good at it, and they like it, and it's their passion, and they're driven. And raising money, they often see as a necessary evil. And so I teach them how to be more comfortable with that, how to do it. In a lot of cases, I help them with their donors, and it excites me to get to see them blossom in that ability to do that, but also to see their missions grow. So like I said, that's primarily, and fundraising is really a lot about raising awareness. I tell people that if you have to call somebody and tell them who you are and what your mission is, you're not ready to ask them for money. So you want to, and so it's a lot of marketing, and ways of sharing your mission and your passion. So that's what I get to do. That's what excites me, because it's fun, because a lot of times I'm in the middle of people thanking me for things. Donors will thank you for taking their money when you share the impact that their donation has had. And the nonprofit is thanking you for helping them raise money so they can have a bigger impact. And I always try to work with nonprofits where I'm going to have some exposure to the clients, because I can't tell their story if I don't really feel their story. And so I'll often have clients thanking me for helping and raising money and serving them. So I'm blessed. I get to be in the middle of all of that. And again, a lot of it is just helping people think outside the box on ways of connecting those dots.
It's very interesting to hear you say that, because I'm not sure why, but it kind of resonated with me, because having gone through my own journey and been in a position to be a major donor and give money to the church and other nonprofits, and the things that go with that, and then being in a nonprofit and then having to ask for the checks, there's an ego thing there. It's kind of a having level thing, that it's not a necessary evil. It is necessary, and the more you increase your ability to accept what other people are really wanting to give you, the more value you can provide. And that's one of the things in my own journey right now with my own mentors that are saying to me is, okay, it's time that you elevate your having level, that you're willing to now enable people to pay you so that you can do more and you can channel more to where you want and what you're led to do, because there's got to be more that you want to do. And I think that's probably a regular conversation, maybe not in those words, right, that you end up having with these people, is they're serving their community, but asking for the funds or the means. Sometimes our ego gets in the way. Yeah, I don't really need the money. Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, again, I'm being very transparent here with my own zombie and my own brain with that. So helping them overcome that is a huge, huge value. It's one of the things my mentors are helping me with. So for sure, I'm sure you can help them. So if anything were possible, and you know me, I believe everything is possible, because with God all things are possible, and I believe that you can accomplish whatever you can dream or you can vision along with your nonprofits. What kind of impact do you see yourself having? Is it, just serving a handful of nonprofits? Are you looking to do something, much larger? What is it, if anything were possible, what would Lon Ricker's impact in the world that he's working with now and going forward, what would that look like?
That would look like me being able to help the nonprofits that are out there, because they're the ones that need the help the most, right? They don't have the funding to hire staff or to hire, you gotta spend money to make money, kind of a thing. And they get that, but quite often I start out with doing little projects to show them, the impact that we have, so they can see that by having that focused effort of somebody to help them focus on raising money the right way, that they can make more, that they can have a bigger impact on their communities. And it's that, that chicken and egg kind of a thing. So yeah, I would love to be able to just, and I do a lot of pro bono work, but love to be able to just, help everybody without without having to charge them, although we all know people don't always respect the advice if it's free. But if they're paying you, well, then they figure they better listen to you. And it's interesting. You talked about, your zombie and things. I'm working with a group called Mission Increase Foundation, and they're a foundation. They receive donations to be able to provide development support to nonprofits at no charge. And it is all biblically based, Christian based fundraising. And one of the things they talk about, I thought you were going to go down the path of, a lot of we talked about leaders, they don't, the necessary evil. What they teach is that if you're not telling people how they can support you, you're doing them a disservice. And I used to say down at the Soupmobile that, I'm not doing my job if I don't tell you this, but it's people want to give. As you said, when you had lots of money, you were working 80 hours a week or more. You couldn't go down and volunteer someplace. But if somebody showed you how a donation to their nonprofit could have an impact that touched your heart, it was a blessing for you to give that financially. If nobody told you about those opportunities, you were never going to get to be blessed by making those donations. And so it's that. And so, again, working with Mission Increase and the biblical principles of giving, we've got to be able to share our need as a nonprofit. And really what you're doing is you're sharing the opportunities for other people to come alongside of you and help you. So, everybody's like, oh, I hate to ask for money. I'm like, we're not going to ask for money. All we're going to do is we're going to share the opportunities, and God will bring us the people that will have a passion to help us do what we're doing. But if you never tell anybody what the opportunities are, well, so, circling back around, a friend just told me, she was just like, Lon, if you make more money, you can help more people. But the same thing you're just talking about, it sounds like your mentors are telling you the same thing. And so that is a zombie I've got, because I'd rather do it all for free. And it's like, well, and if I made more, then I could donate more. So maybe I too need to quit doing quite so much pro bono and letting people pay me more for it. But on the other hand, I feel like that's the way I'm giving in my blessings.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that part of it is, again, we tend to think of the nonprofit world, and having been in both myself, the for-profit, nonprofit, the model, the mindset is one of, we tend to think money is something that we aren't supposed to focus on, when in fact it is the lifeblood of being able to provide whatever value. And so really the focus that I think you're seeking, just hearing what you're saying, is that you really want to be able to provide the value that you can provide, helping people connect to the right donors, helping people take care of the right donors, having people thrive in whatever cause they have in their particular nonprofit, without overly burdening them with your support, which is fine. But as you already acknowledged, as you were talking through that in your own mind or in your own conversation here, is that people don't appreciate what they don't pay for. And so, or they give it the value of what they pay for it, which obviously, since you're actually contributing your time, which is a priceless gift that Bill Gates can't buy yesterday, right? So you're basically giving them an hour of your life, or 2 hours or 10 hours or whatever. So being able to transform their ministry or their nonprofit or their for-profit organization, for that matter, needs to be compensated in some way so that you can do it more, so it's sustainable. So that's, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I think is that kind of where you're at with this whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's my paying clients, and I like helping them, and want to help more. But on the other hand, yeah, it's been a very important thing to me. And so being able to hop on the motorcycle and take off for a long weekend, or last year I took a couple of trips that, I was gone for a couple of weeks. And so that's been really important to me. I had my phone with me and was in contact with folks and answering questions and things. I wasn't, so focused on working the whole time. So yeah, if anything were possible, it would be, to be able to help people and get to do those fun things as well. What I do, I enjoy the interaction with my clients and their clients, that this is nothing I could ever take on the road and do remotely. I need that ability to physically hug those people. So yeah, this COVID thing is, like you, I know, is driving me crazy because I'm not able to hug those people. But so that's, if there were a way that I could get that while being on the road, that would be pretty cool. But it's not like I can just show up in a town and instantly start helping a nonprofit there. You got to build that credibility, and you got to figure out if there's somebody you want to help. So, yeah, if anything were possible, I would be able to have the impact I'm having, but not being tied down to one geographical area.
Makes a lot of sense. Actually, that's part of knowing you, I think that is, if I were to define what I see as Lon Ricker's ideal day, I would say, yeah, it has to be enough flexibility to where you're not tied to a desk or tied to a specific thing. On the other hand, I also know, being a master networker at this point, and which is one of your key values. I don't even think you mentioned it, but I know that to be true. And bringing new people, new ideas, new thoughts, not just your own, but other people to the party with the various nonprofits is absolutely a value that you have, and one that is much needed in virtually every ministry, every nonprofit that I've ever encountered is they need that. And you definitely bring a lot of that to the party, but doing it in a way that you can maintain that flexibility. So what I'm hearing is, if anything were possible, you would be able to scale that without losing the connectivity to the various ministries or nonprofits that you're supporting, so that you could actually be present, but also maybe be able to do more. So maybe that means that you get people helping you help them. Maybe it's, life is a team sport, right? So who knows? But it's pretty fascinating to talk about. It's pretty cool. I'm picking up what you're laying down, so that's good.
Like you, I'm a connector. Yeah. And so I don't know how you can connect people in an area where you don't know the people. So I've been, the past 2 years, I've really focused on this, Wiley, Saxe, Murphy area, trying to get to know people here. And that's allowed me to connect people, and a lot of times, like you do, it's, you connect them and then you back away. And, it has nothing to do with your business or you. It's more of, they need to know those people, and you bring them together, and then you watch great things happen out of that. Sometimes you're in the middle of it, but if you don't know those people, if you're not out there networking, if you're not putting yourself in the place where you're going to learn the needs of what needs to be connected, so yeah, if I could figure out how to do that remotely, but again, it's to me, it's all about personal relationships. It's all about, that's like, if you're fundraising, you ask a stranger on the street for $50 and they're going to come up with no matter what your cause is, they're going to have a really good excuse of why they don't have $50 right now. You ask a friend for $50, assuming it's a legitimate cause, they're going to support you because they support you. And so, again, I tell people all the time, it's what you taught me in business. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Well, it's the exact same thing with, people give to the people at the nonprofit for the most part. They're not giving to the name or the cause. And so if you're not willing to be, now I'm preaching, but you've got to, as a nonprofit leader and staff and things like that, you've got to be out there so people know that they're supporting somebody that they trust and that they like. So when you do come to them and you say, man, we've been working together, and now this is a need we have. Would you like to be a part of this? They're going to support you.
Yep. Well, I think we've got a good place here to land the plane for this segment. So when we come back, Lon, I want you to kind of think about one or two or three things that you said here, or maybe even something you haven't yet to say that our warriors should take away, and we'll come right back, and then we'll explore how we can get in touch with you beyond this for the final Land the Plane segment at Warrior versus Zombie. So before we do that, let's hear a little bit more of Ricky Jean Wright, and It's Not the Getting There.
Funny how wisdom and youth are always two different games. The years flew by so fast, is the common human complaint. The memories in our minds turn to diamonds in our soul, and by the grace of God.
All right, we're back
Down
with
the
the
road
Land the Plane
we go.
segment of Warrior versus Zombie, and we've had a great ride here with Lon Ricker. And Lon, when we took the break, I was talking to you about the takeaways, but one of the things I realized when we took the break is that really didn't talk a lot about your current projects and the folks that you're serving right now, and just thought I'd ask, can you give me a couple of whatever projects that you're working on right now that our audience might be interested in?
Sure. I appreciate you asking. And I guess a couple of examples are on two opposite ends of the spectrum. One of my clients is InSync Exotics Wildlife Rescue and Education Center here in Wiley. They rescue exotic big cats. They're a sanctuary that's been around for 20 years. This is their 20th anniversary. And they get calls from actually around the world. Unfortunately, some people think it would be cool to own a tiger or a lion cub. And then as it gets bigger, they realize that was not a good idea. And then places like InSync end up with them. I love that because Vicki Cahey, the founder and the president, she has a passion for serving those cats and caring for them. They are with her for the rest of their life. And so they do whatever it takes to keep them happy and healthy. Medications, they'll even, chemo if they have cancer and things like that. And so that's one of those that, and besides it's, they're open to the public on the weekends. I'm blessed that I get to go wander around there. The cats are all safely enclosed. You get to go, get to know the cats and the personalities. So that one's pretty cool. And again, it's helping them fund, their $1.3 million mission. And then the opposite end of the spectrum, because of this COVID thing, kind of initiated Team Up to Fight Hunger. And what we've done is we've pulled together local food pantries that were having a shortage of food. At the same time, they were having an increase in clients. And then the local restaurants, who initially were shut down except for curbside service or takeout, they were hurting. Some of them closed. Some of them tried to figure out how they could keep some, probably not all of their staff. So what we do with Team Up is we give vouchers to the food pantries to give to their clients. So the clients can call the restaurant and order a hot, hearty meal for their family, and then they go pick that up. And then we reimburse the restaurants $25 per voucher. So now they're providing a meal for a family of four, probably in the range of about $40. So we're covering food plus a little bit. We're not covering all of their overhead, but our partner restaurants were trying to be open anyway. So they had the staff there, they had the cooks there. They were providing for their regular clients as much as they could. So we're supplementing their income through this tough time as well. So that's been a pretty cool thing. Again, it's, I'm in the middle of the nonprofits that are getting to give these vouchers out and also driving traffic to the restaurants. So that's been a fun little collaborative out of the middle of nowhere. We just did it and we're doing it and having some pretty good success. So that's good.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. There's actually, like you say, there's kind of two ends of the spectrum, but one of the things that's pretty clear is you're passionate about both of those ends of the spectrum, and you're bringing your networking and your creativity and connecting the dots kind of thought process to the whole thing. So I can see your value being manifest in your current project. So tell me, from all that we've heard thus far, if we were going to take any couple of things away as warriors to put in our tool belt, if you will, going forward, what would those things be?
So maybe not number one, but the first thing is just the importance of networking. It's one of those things I'll get on my soapbox about is I joke about, and again, learn this from the business stuff. The time to network is not when you need a job or a girlfriend or whatever. You need to have a network when you're looking for those things. If you just sit at home all the time, then all of a sudden you get laid off, well, you're hurting. Because I think everybody realizes that a lot of jobs aren't advertised. It's all, it's introductions. So that's what Team Up to Fight Hunger was, the prime example of me making phone calls to people I knew and saying, let's get together so we can understand food pantry, what do you need? Restaurant, what do you need? And is there any way that we can come together? So whether it's finding a new job or meeting new people or finding somebody when your plumbing goes out, or AC in the heat, network, get out there. Now, I tell people from a networking perspective, that doesn't always mean going to networking meetings. Go volunteer places. The Soupmobile is an example I've used for a lot of people. Every Wednesday, we would take a produce truck out to the community and pass out produce. And we had some businessmen that would come from two different directions and walks of life, and they would work that produce truck. And pretty soon I saw them going to lunch together, and pretty soon they were doing business together because they already had that common interest of serving people. And so, maybe your passion is walking dogs and helping at a kennel or something like that. You're going to meet like-minded people. And in time, those are going to be people that you're going to build relationships with because you already have that. And maybe that's somebody that you date, or maybe that's somebody that you do business with, or a realtor or whatever. So, I tell them, I meet people at networking events and I'm like, take 10 to 20% of your time, and rather than networking, go volunteer someplace. Volunteer someplace where you have a passion, and you will find that you build business from there. You build relationships from there. So networking is important. The number one thing I'm going to say take away is positivity. It's be positive, even if you have to fake it till you make it sometimes, because you're going to attract other positive people, and people are going to want to be around you because of your positivity. And that's going to help you in all areas of life. If we're down and out and things like that. You talked about the warrior mentality. Be positive. Try to, people ask how you're doing. I'm not feeling well today, but, and then go at a positive, and people are going to appreciate that. And that's going to help your health, as you touched on earlier. So even if at first you have to fake it, try to be positive. So those are probably the two main ones of, and then, see how you can serve other people. I always try to ask people, what can I do? What do you need? What can I do to help you? Because then typically they're going to turn around, they're going to ask you the same question. We don't do it to get that question asked, but, and then you might have a need, but a lot of times I find people are just like, do you know somebody that can help me with this? And then I get to connect them. Those are my takeaways, I guess.
Well, those are good takeaways. In fact, I love the networking part of it, obviously being a community builder and a networker myself these days. The whole, your mindset, I can tell we've been together for a while, is exactly where I would say too, which is basically a network is something you invest in like a bank account. And then when you need the money, your network is there that can give you a return on that investment. It's not a transaction. It's not, like you said, okay, what can I do for you? Oh, now you ask me what you can do for me. It's not a transaction, because as soon as it becomes a transaction, it really isn't networking. It's really transactional. It might be sales, might be a lot of things. So that's the first thing, is really understanding, knowing, and investing in your network is a great takeaway. And then obviously the other one, which is find some place to serve. One of the things with some of my clients, they lose their job. Some of the clients that I've had recently, they've lost a job. They don't know what to do. They haven't invested in their network. And it kind of goes right along with what you says. The first thing I tell them to do is go see at the school or the church. Are you plugged into any community? See what you can do to serve somebody, because that place where being where you're at and totally focused on what just happened to you, if you can get out of that and shift your focus to somebody that's maybe needs the same thing you need, maybe needs something more, maybe needs something you don't, but you can help them, that'll change. That keeps you moving, keeps you acting, keeps you serving. And you'd be surprised what other people will encounter, and they'll say, hey, this guy's pretty good. Yeah, I think I want to see. And then you say, well, what do you do? Oh, I could use a job. So it does, as you say, it could lead to bigger and better things. But the whole thing is shift your focus to serving others. And obviously some of the projects you're working on and you're aware of are opportunities probably for our audience. If they're looking for something to support, they can probably reach out to you there. That's awesome. So let me, that's a good segue to the final thing I'm going to ask you is, the audience obviously has become a little enamored and excited about Lon Ricker and what you're doing. So how do they follow up with you? How do we get in touch with you after this podcast?
Go volunteer places and you'll find me. But probably, the easiest thing to give is rickerdynamics.com is my website. Interestingly, go to any of the networking events around here in Wiley, Saxe, and Murphy and ask somebody for my contact information. I've been blessed with a lot of introductions that way. One day I missed an event and I got like 2 text messages and 2 or 3 emails that there was a guy that showed up and said, I need to learn how to fundraise. And everybody said, you need to talk to Lon. They gave him my card. So anyway, rickerdynamics.com. I tell people, buy me a cup of coffee and pick my brain and let's see if there's some way I can help you. It might be that I introduce you to the folks at Mission Increase Foundation and they help you for free. So I'm all about serving people and what they need. So
okay, so rickerdynamics.com, or get yourself out into the nonprofit world and you'll probably cross paths with Lon out there, especially if you're in the Wiley, Saxe, or probably most areas, at least in North Dallas, I know, because I run into people who run into Lon all the time. So get out there and network and you're bound to find him. But if you can't find him in your normal walk, go to rickerdynamics.com and check him out. Or anyway, follow up with Warrior versus Zombie. So with that, I think we're going to land the plane. For those of you who are listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, obviously we're there. We're on podcast platforms of all types, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Google, and YouTube, Google Podcast, YouTube, Deezer, all of the ones that people use, Spreaker, Spotify, you name it. So I encourage you to, if you would, share this podcast, like the episode, assuming you like it, subscribe would be awesome, download. And if you have any questions or are interested in being a guest on Warrior versus Zombie, if you're a warrior, you've recognized this, and I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you are a warrior, and you have a story to tell, reach out to me on myvisionwarrior.com and schedule a free consultation, and we get to know each other a little bit, and we'll make that happen. So with that, we're going to land the plane here and hear a little bit more from Ricky Jean Wright. And thank you again, Lon. Thank you for sharing with the audience. And we're looking forward to hearing all kinds of great stories as you get down the road. So with that, have a good day and we're going to listen to Ricky Jean Wright.
It's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there, when you get there you'll know. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there, when you get there you'll know.